We had an incredible morning this morning. We're talking about healthy people and healthy planet today. And all the different things that we've discussed have sort of given us a focus on the planet portion. We've talked about the personal, we've talked about the land. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about a bridge between the two as we continue on through the rest of the afternoon. We'll talk a little more about ourselves and the way that being a healthy person helps us contribute to a healthy planet. But that starts with being able to catalyze change within ourselves. There is no better catalyst or communication tool for this idea than storytelling itself. So we're gonna have a lovely panel now on that, and I'd like to bring up to lead that panel, JJ, AKA Jason Jackson from Atlantic Packaging.
All right, guys. I'm glad Summer gave me an Altoid before that breathing exercise, or I could have killed that cameraman over there. All right. I'm also very jealous of the couch. I was hoping I could moderate laying down because that lunch was really good. So we're talking about storytelling and the power of it, and we've all heard that phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. And I'm sure we've all heard that quote 1,000 times, but how true it really is if we really marinate on it. You can take a single image and it can convey such a complex emotion or message. And then you amplify that when you talk about moving pictures, right? You can really start resonating and reaching people's hearts, softening someone's hearts, really getting into their mind and emotion. And that's so true where we're at today, right? We've seen so many films this morning that if you didn't have some kind of emotional feeling during, you should probably check your pulse, right? A lot of things that really moved us and really made us kind of want to take action. And that's the cool thing about storytelling is you get past just the initial story and it really resonates into something that drives feeling, that drives emotion, that drives action into something better. And that's kind of what we were hoping for the film that we're about to see. It's a film called Built to Vanish. And it's a collaboration between these wonderful humans that you're about to meet. And before I tell you about the film, let's learn a little bit about who's sitting next to me. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Check. I'm Ben Slitianu. I'm a documentary filmmaker on staff with Imagine 5. And Imagine 5 is a nonprofit telling positive stories in the climate space. Sounds like an oxymoron.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
Thanks, JJ.
Hello, check. My name is Gabby Scott. I'm the director of this film. I'm a documentary filmmaker also from San Francisco, the Bay Area, and I partnered with this amazing team, Imagine 5, to make this film.
My name is Amelia Anderson. I am the senior marketing manager at Cruz Foam, based in Santa Cruz. So yeah.
And my name is Cody Townsend, professional skier, also a filmmaker as well. And I'm from Santa Cruz too.
All right. So a good story, all the wonderful stories that we've seen this morning, they all take you on a journey, right? They introduce us to new people, places, things, smells, sounds, you name it. But they usually tell us or teach us about a how and a why that moves us to action and motivates us. Even if that's a small step, it motivates us. We think about the films we saw today. I'm sure the Sungo Watch film, maybe it made you a little mad, right? Got you kind of irritated. That's a lot of plastic. That's terrible. Charles's film, maybe you shed a little tear. But the goal is to stir up whatever feeling that is. The Ecology Center made me hungry. Good thing we had lunch straight after. But we want to stir emotion. So that's what we aim to do. The film that we're about to watch, it's called Built to Vanish, and it's a collaboration between a New Earth Project, Imagine 5, Cruz Foam. And what we wanted to do is tell a different story about packaging. Not necessarily something that just gets thrown in your trash can, but something that has purpose, something that's actually beautiful and regenerative. And it's a film about some upcycled waste. That's a lot cooler now. So let's watch the film.
Wherever it is, when I'm like just in nature, you feel pretty human. like, that's where we were supposed to be. That's where we evolved from. My name is Cody Townsend, professional skier from Santa Cruz, California. We as outdoor athletes, I think we have a special connection to the places that we play in. You can't help but want to protect those places. We started doing samples of peaks that are very remote. All of a sudden, you see the amount of styrofoams, you're seeing like carpet fibers, non-biodegradable microplastics in it. It's kind of terrifying. This is microplastics throughout our entire environment, going up into the atmosphere, getting carried through our world in storms and getting dropped onto some of the most remote peaks in the world. How can we do something to change this? I've always found it fascinating growing up here in Santa Cruz. It's such a hub of innovation. This like small little boggy town with some good waves is, potentially going to change the world.
I grew up always going to the ocean, and so it's just been part of my blood, part of my life. I wanted to find ways to start connecting more with the natural world. I've always been an engineer at heart, and I was lucky enough to find a career in environmental engineering. I started realizing nature has the answer. We tried to start by creating a compostable foam for surfboards. It just takes me right back looking at that. We realized we created a high-performing foam that nobody had achieved. Foam is used in so many places. It could rival styrofoam in packaging. It could rival other plastic foams. And for us, that was this moment where we said, this is it. This is where our technology needs to go. Cruise foam is made of natural materials. The key components that really inspired us was this material called chitin. It's essentially what makes crab shells hard. Our foam degrades in less than 8 weeks. It leaves no microplastics. It's regenerative. One of our biggest inputs, without a doubt, is just food waste in general. To this day, the amount of food waste is enormous. We put it through a compounding process. You get a nice little pellet, and that pellet goes to a larger industrial system called extrusion. At the end of the day, we create a material that at the end of life is incredible. We design our product to disappear. The biggest problem with recycling is it doesn't change the end game. You still have an input, and it still ends up in landfill. You're just creating a secondary loop of accumulation. We have to be designing solutions that can return to Earth. This is actually the first product we made for Verve. Verve is a local Santa Cruz coffee company that uses our product to temperature control ship their cold brew coffee. One of the other ones that we're really excited about, and it speaks to where we can really offer this product in a really impactful way, is working with a company like Meals on Wheels, who use our product to ship groceries and food to those who do not have the best access. The way in which we make it allows us to really offer solutions that can be customized, can address a large spectrum of the need. It's not just about making a box. There is so much more advocacy on the consumer level to demand these brands use sustainable materials, use circular packaging on a level that we haven't seen before. It just fills me with an enormous amount of hope.
Morning.
Thank you so much.
Of course, have a great day.
The best thing for any material is to be biodegradable. To have products that are made to do that from like upcycled waste, there's no better solution than that.
And technologies like cruise foam change the way we live our lives. the materials we put into this planet and our connection with the natural world.
All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed the film. Now with some questions on the film. So let's, Ben, Gabby, let's start with you guys first. Tell us a little bit about Imagine 5, what you guys do, what kind of stories you guys are about, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, first off, thanks JJ and Dawn for having us here. This is a really special privilege for us because a lot of our work just gets distributed straight to the small screen. That's a big part of how we create our impact. So to be able to like step back and see the film on the big screen and have these kind of discussions, it's a really unique opportunity for us, and just super grateful to be here. A little bit about Imagine 5. Yeah, when we talk about story, the power of storytelling, I think we're approaching it from maybe the climate crisis. One of the roots of this problem is that maybe we're having a crisis of story, right? And earlier it was said in the context of food that we are what we consume, and I think they acknowledged as well, like that's so true when it comes to stories, right? Like if you're just binge watching Love Island all day, you're probably gonna start to be a little bit drama after that, you know?
The Love Island panel's next, so we should probably...
Oh, sorry, don't mean to be bashing the next panel. But we are the stories that we consume, right? And for so often this dominant narrative around climate has been that we're headed off the cliff, and you know that's producing climate denial, climate anxiety. You know, people feel discouraged and disempowered. We recently got to chat with Solitaire Townsend, the founder of Futerra. Lovely British accent, swears like a sailor, even on stage. So I won't try and imitate, but she had this lovely quote saying, "I'm more afraid of apathy than I am of the climate crisis." She's like, climate change, it's just chemistry. And I think she was drawing also on Jane Goodall saying, the late great Jane Goodall, yeah, absolute legend, the GOAT. Jane Goodall saying that her greatest fear for our future is apathy, right? So at Imagine 5, we're trying to write a different story, and I think that's the beautiful thing about stories, right, is like, you could have the same set of facts but draw a completely different conclusion. So we're taking the set of facts that we have, which is a dire situation, but trying to see opportunity and point a flashlight to the places where change is happening. And it's happening in so many ways, and just being here around all of these people, I think we all feel that energy rising, right? And that's what we want to be a part of. So whether that's stories like we had a story about Tegelwippen, which is this movement in the Netherlands where people are lifting the concrete in front of their houses and planting little gardens. You know, we get to talk to celebrities like Rainn Wilson about what they're doing in the climate space, how he's like honoring indigenous ancestors, and really the goal is just to have stories that make you feel empowered to act and empowered to move. We recently also got to chat with Alex Honnold, and he has a lot to say about fear, right? And how fear can paralyze you. And he was kind of saying like, look, in the climate crisis, a lot of times I think we're just giving too much space to fear, and really we just need to ignore it in order to be able to act and not be paralyzed. So to just kind of borrow his analogy of free soloing as someone that's never gotten more than 10 feet up a climbing wall with a rope attached to me, but I think, yeah, at Imagine 5, we're like, you know what? Staring over the edge of the precipice 100 feet down is not helping us climb this mountain that we need to climb. And yeah, there's no rope, there's no plan B, so we need to lock in and just look for that next handhold, that next step that we can take.
Beautifully put. I was stoked that, yeah, you guys can clap. That was pretty damn good. And my biggest takeaway there was I was stoked that Leonardo DiCaprio posted this story, but you just said you interviewed Dwight, and now I'm green with envy. Rainn Wilson is Dwight, if you guys didn't know that. So let's talk about how this particular story came to life. How did all of this come together?
Yeah, I can start, and then the rest of the crew can jump in. But yeah, when I first joined Imagine 5, we did a lovely little video project with Sway, who's Julia Marsh's. I see some claps. I see some love for Sway. Let's go. Probably a lot of fans in the house, making plastic replacement bioplastics out of seaweed. Absolutely wild, the work that they're doing. And so that kind of launched us on this climate tech series, starting in San Francisco, where we're based, and just seeing all these amazing companies that have such creative solutions. They're taking nature, the solutions from nature, and using those. So naturally, we got introduced to Cruise, and I think just as soon as we started talking, we're like, oh, this is different. Like, this company, like, talking about radical collaboration like we talked about earlier, it was like, it wasn't just like a one-way street of like, hey, we want to cover you guys. Like, it was like you guys were bringing ideas to the table, and then we had our first conversations, and then you're like, oh, there's this guy, JJ, he's kind of crazy, but like, I think he needs to be on a call with us too.
Touche.
So yeah, I've never, covered a story for editorial where the people that we're covering are coming back to us with a film treatment. So I know, JJ, you had a creative burst of energy while sipping on a few in-flight cocktails, and
screwdrivers. Yes.
That's where it all started, I think.
And this has been such a neat collaboration, and I want to kind of hear from everybody, but it is neat when you get the power of story together with so many different perspectives, right? You have a materials company, you have a packaging company, you have one of the best skiers on the planet that we're about to talk to over there. And then to be able to work together to tell a compelling story that's positive, that doesn't end making you feel kind of nauseous, it's a fun thing. I'm going to get to some of the visuals in a second, but Cody, I wanted to talk to you because there's some really interesting things that we saw in there. How did you go from being one of the best skiers on the planet Earth to a steward for the planet and talking about sustainability?
I think it's first, there's a long history of athletes and activism. So from Jim Thorpe to Tommy Smith to Billie Jean King to like one of the pioneers for me, Jeremy Jones. I think it's just like there's been a long history of athletes using their platforms to do more than just their sport. And then for me, like when you're in the outdoors, there is so much given to me. Like my entire career, my family, my community, the best moments in my life have all come from the mountains and to some extent the ocean as well, because I was born and raised in Santa Cruz, somehow became a professional skier. And those moments, you kind of, at times you're sitting there going like, am I an extraction industry if I just walk away from this without giving anything back? So in that act of like reciprocity, you start to think like, what can I do to pay it back? Because everything good in my life has come from this. And so it's just this natural thing of like, I got to do something for these places that have given me so much. So to me, it's almost just like a basic requirement. And then like, I am forever in debt to these places, and like I'm never going to be able to pay back what they've given to me. I feel like I'm like signing up for one of those Klarna payment programs, and I'm just gonna be like chipping away at it for the rest of my life, and just trying to do the littlest I can to help elevate people like them. I'm not a scientist. I am not that smart, but I have a platform and I have a voice and a face, and I can like hopefully lift other people up, lift through my films, my platforms, be like, hey, let's shove some attention over there. And that's what I hope to do just in my act and my sport.
And not a full-time scientist, but can you speak a little bit about that project in Alaska, like about the microplastics and the lab work you were doing and kind of what led that expedition?
Yeah, the microplastic thing. It was Atlantic Packaging, behind the New Earth project, was the first that came to me with the idea. They were like, "Hey, the University of North Carolina wants to do this microplastic research, but scientists can't go to where you go." And it was like, on it. This sounds amazing, and it's kind of a citizen science project. And so I started loading up extra jugs, empty jugs, and going high up into the mountains, and collaborated with the scientists to tell me, like, here's the directions, here's how you take clean samples, and then would go to very remote places in the Sierra, up in Alaska, up in Baffin Island, and take multiple samples at different elevations, and then bring them back, send them all back to the lab. And when we got the results back, it was, I gotta say, pretty terrifying, because like one of the places was that we did a sample was at about 11,500 feet up on Split Mountain, which is up in the Sierra, and it's very remote. I know for 100% fact I was the first person up there that winter. So no one had been skiing up there. I was early in the winter. There was no human traffic so far that winter. So I start sampling the snow. I was by myself, and come back. A couple weeks later, we're back there. We're camping up there, and this is in order to drink water, we scoop the snow and we melt it, and that is the water we're ingesting. And then 6 months later, we get those samples back, and it's just filled with microplastics. So here we are drinking what you think is like pure snow water, and we're just ingesting microplastics. And then those microplastics are all then flowing straight down into the Walker River Basin, which then flows all the way down to right here. And so, the Sierra is the largest reservoir in California, and realizing that it's not human traffic that is putting those microplastics in the snowpack, but that it's aerosolized and coming through storms, that's when it's all like coming together, like, oh, we have so much bigger of a problem than I even thought. And it's obviously scary, but as Ben is saying, it's like you just have to kind of like, I'm gonna deal with this problem right now, maybe start filtering my water, but we gotta start figuring out solutions and make baby steps to way to get there. And that's, things like this is like, okay, at least there's hope. We have hope.
It's amazing, and eating an elephant one bite at a time, right? So, Gabby, I'm gonna ask you a question now. We're gonna get romantic. We're gonna talk about the romance of this film. It was so beautifully put together visually. Like, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I worked on the project with you, but to see a treatment come to life exactly how you mapped it out on a sheet was breathtaking. Tell us a little bit about your process. I'm sure there's future filmmakers in the audience. Tell us a little bit about your process of bringing something like this to life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just to back it up a little bit, I came across Imagine 5 just from, I think, social media, and I was really blown away by the stories that you guys were telling, and not just, the stories, but the way you were telling them, and they had a lot of visual beauty to them. They were all human stories too, and relatable, and had this kind of like grounded, authentic vibe to them, which definitely feels like a part of, it's in my wheelhouse. That's the kind of storytelling I'm invested in as well as a documentary filmmaker. I love telling human stories, and even like niche stories, or things that we don't often hear about, and then really elevating them visually. Obviously, you have more audience traction with that, but it's just a way to kind of make art from these stories that feel very important and need to get out there. So I felt immediately that there was going to be a great alignment and collaboration between us. And then, I think when you brought the project my way, we started talking about it, I was like, wow, this is a lot. Like, there's a lot to pack in here. We have, Cody, his story, and kind of setting up the problem, and then pivoting to the solution, and Cruise Foam, and the amazing work John, the founder, has been doing, and then his whole story of the founder story itself, and then the product, and like what its evolution, the different stages it's gone through, and I'm like, how are we going to tell this concisely, with under 5 minutes, and we have done cut downs as well, which are really nice. But I think the biggest, one of the biggest goals was just to keep it very elevated visually, and really beautiful. And so finding the human story in it, and not just focusing on the product itself. We had obviously like Santa Cruz and that landscape and the ocean and the water, and John's a surfer, Cody was out there surfing, and it was amazing to see, like, to speak to him of like, he's a professional skier, but also he's out there in the water and he just purely enjoys being immersed in nature, and he so easily was able to talk about that through the interviews, so that was really nice accompaniment, that footage with that.
You packed an entire cow into a delicious little slider, and you did a really good job at it. Let's learn a little bit about the material itself. Cody was one of the stars, but the star really was this upcycled compostable foam called Cruise. So we have Amelia from Cruise Foam. Tell us a little bit about the history of the product and what it is.
Yeah, so Cruise Foam was founded by John Feltz and Mark Rolandi in 2017. It was a spin out of a research project at UC Santa Cruz. And the two of them were studying this biomaterial called chitin. And chitin is the most abundant biopolymer in the world. And they figured out that they could make foam out of it. And so they kind of took a step back and they're like, well, what can we put this foam in? And they were both surfers. They're like, let's go make surfboards out of foam. And fast forward a little bit, they kind of started innovating, and they found out that they could, the foam would really work, but they could probably have a bigger impact in the packaging space as a whole, right? And so instead of, just trying to replace the foam in surfboards, why not go replace the styrofoam as a whole, in specifically in packaging? And so after kind of the whole surfboard thing, they pivoted to packaging and scaled the team and got an awesome R&D team on board. And fast forward a little bit to when I came on board a few years ago, we didn't quite have a product in market yet, but we had a really great foam that could perform at the same with the same characteristics as styrofoam. So I remember when I started, we had this awesome foam, and I was going to local businesses in Santa Cruz and being like, hey, do you want to use our foam and in exchange for a video testimonial? And I would tell them the Cruise Foam story, and instantly their eyes would light up, and they're like, yes, we want to be a part of this, and also get some free foam, of course. But yeah, and I think that storytelling, in that moment, I realized, storytelling is a huge part of Cruise Foam's story, right? And just selling Cruise Foam in general, and it's how we're going to make the biggest impact the fastest. And so then fast forward to now, we're commercialized, and we have a commercial manufacturing facility in North Carolina, and we've been able to, that's only been made possible by our amazing partners like A New Earth Project and Atlantic Packaging, who have helped us every step of the way and get scaled up and done a ton of market validation and testing, and now we have real customers. And it's so cool to see, like the other day I was ordering a bunch of products for a photo shoot that I was doing, and it's just wild. Like, I ordered it offline, and out pops, these are awesome customers' products, and Cruise Foam is packaging them. So it's just been such a cool journey to see like the kind of whole story arc come to life, and yeah.
Beautifully put. And it's interesting because packaging and storytelling, or marketing for that matter, it might not be necessarily the most synonymous thing in the past, right? It's not necessarily sexy, right? However, there's a lot of storytelling elements here. And how do you feel like for something like a sustainable material like Cruise Foam, how do you think that is so important for brands to adapt that as a brand attribute, like packaging as a brand attribute?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny concept because, I know, at least like me, I didn't think that I would be marketing packaging, and I don't think that our customers are necessarily thinking of packaging as the first thing that they're like screaming off the rooftops in their marketing strategy, right? Like, it's not something that people think, oh yeah, I need to talk about this. immediately. And so I think that with cruise foam, what we have been able to do very well is instead of focus on what we make at cruise foam, which is literally just foam in a box, we focus instead on what we make happen. Like, what's the story behind it, and then what can we do with these amazing storytellers like Cody, for example, who, you know, he's figuring out that there's microplastics in the most remote peaks of the world. Okay, how can we be part of the solution? And kind of telling the story from all of these amazing, you know, visually, it's just, yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think that once people start to catch on, like, for example, like, we've now put out some amazing videos, which I think you'll see in a second, but with some of our customers like Wild Idea Buffalo and Caviar Co. and all of these, once we put out these stories, now I'm starting to see that our customers are starting to come to us, and they're like, hey, I saw that awesome thing that you did with Caviar Co. Let me do the same thing. And I think that it's just going to be kind of a snowball effect of, you know, one person starts to talk about it, and now here they all come, and everybody wants to talk about it, and everybody wants to get on board, and that's truly how we're going to make a real change. So.
And I think that's been a beautiful theme of what we've seen today. A lot of the panels before, they're brands like Florence Marine X or different brands that are adapting. Whoa, there's these new natural materials that we can work with, and it's not necessarily something you can jump into right away, but it takes that little bit of step and really romancing that story to say, hey, there are sustainable solutions out there that are absolutely attainable, that can absolutely scale up and can be in the market today. And one really cool example of that, we'll show a really short video. You can see the full length on YouTube, but there's a company out there called Wild Idea Buffalo that have done a lot of really cool things, but they're one of the first adapters in large form with cruise foam, and we did a short, we're gonna show you the trailer story of right now.
Wild Idea Buffalo Company, our mission is to regenerate the prairie grasslands while improving our environment and our food supply by bringing back the buffalo. The byproduct of what we do is healthy, delicious, and sustainable red meat, but the reality is we do this for the ecosystem.
We hope that a day in the life of buffalo resembles something that it would have thousands of years ago, which is to roam the Great Plains and, you know, live a low stress life and let them exist in the elements in which they've evolved in for hundreds of thousands of years.
To honor the prairie and to honor the buffalo, that needs to be seen all the way through. So if so much care and love goes into the product, right, that needs to follow through all the way to the consumer. And you can't cut corners there, because then it negates everything that you did at the beginning.
If you bring a great product to market but wrap it in something that is not environmentally responsible, it's toxic, it's polluting, it ends up in marine ecosystems. It unravels a lot of that good that you did in the first place.
You have to have passion in order to make those right decisions when it comes to product quality, animal welfare, and of course the environment. If you don't have that passion, then I don't know how you can make the right decisions for future generations.
All right. So we've got 13 minutes, and we've got a lot of cool people on stage, and a lot of people that are still digesting their food out there in the audience. So we figure we could lively it up a little bit and ask some questions. Does anybody have any questions for anybody here on stage? Oh yeah, here. Sorry, I didn't say that I was gonna do this here. Sorry, Don. If it's not live, it's a small theater, just yell.
No, I was gonna yell anyway, but from London, we're good at that. You know, it's been great today to hear so many people talk about performance, because I mean, goodwill and good intentions are fine, but they tend to wither when they're faced with inconvenience and expense. So we'd just love to kind of get your perspective as storytellers, how you're addressing trade-offs, and obviously from Cruise Foam's perspective, like, how have you talked about trade-offs? How have you talked about advantages? I think it's a great design exercise for anyone who's trying to do the work that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely I'm not to say that cruise foam it's been a smooth ride ever since we started, right? Like there's always hiccups in the road, but now I think that now that we're commercially available, we've gone through a lot of the hiccups, gone down the list, in terms of all of the performance attributes, and we have a foam that produces, we are producing foam that's on par with, at least in the cold chain industry, specifically in block and brace, for things like TVs, and Tempest is one of our customers. They make like a weathering device system, and then things under 40 pounds specifically perform amazing with our foam. And then in the cold chain space, like Wild Idea Buffalo, if you're shipping under 48 hours, golden. So I think it's just a matter of like, yeah, we're still getting better. We're a startup, but we're at the place right now, finally. Like I said, in the past 3 years that I've been with the company, it's just wild to see the improvement, and I'm just ecstatic because our performance is on par with where we need it to be. So yeah.
And a very wise man that's sitting in the audience that signs my checks said I'm going to butcher this, but perfection is the worst enemy of progress. Sorry if I butchered that, Wes. I don't know where you're sitting, but it is very true. And I was close, right? Okay. And realistically with this, there's been a lot of hiccups and a lot of bumps, but there's also been a lot of partners that are like, let's figure it out. Like, let's test stuff. Okay, this is wrong, let's fix this. And we're like, oh, cool. And that in the last 3 months, we've been able to make leaps and bounds. And the nice thing about a product like Cruise versus some other things is the R value's there, the price is so comparative that really it's just people that want to do the right thing that push it forward. But honestly, without these stories, that slows things down. So it's neat to actually see people wanting to bring that into their brand attribute and kind of sing it from the praises, because no one has an emotional connection to EPS foam. It sucks. It's going to be around longer than any one of our grandkids, so it is neat to see that. Any other questions? Got a lot of cool storytellers and skiers and such. Yes, ma'am.
Hang on, I got a microphone coming.
Don's coming in hot.
We need it for TV. I have two questions. The first one is, you said price comparison, they're pretty similar. So with that line, my first question is, I have two. I'm going to ask them both at the same time. Let me ask the first one. It's quicker. Is the foam, can you extrude it or inject it? Or is that in development? And then from a cost perspective, how is it compare cost-wise? And is there an effort in the industry as a whole to educate? I mean, this seems stupid because that's what we're doing. But, European culture seems to be willing to pay more for items, for process, for anything, because they know that it's environmentally more sustainable. But in the U.S., we seem to be so focused on such a low price point on almost anything that people are willing to compromise the sustainability over the product itself. So I have those two questions from a product development standpoint.
Want to take the first one?
Yeah, sure. So yes, cruise foam is extruded. It's made, so we started on our smaller extruder in Santa Cruz, and now it's made on our commercial manufacturing equipment, a much bigger extruder in North Carolina. So yeah, it's extruded.
And
JJ.
Injection, yeah. So right now we have a converting department that we can pretty much cut it and stamp it into almost anything, and we're progressing into a lot of different technologies that we can talk about later. But we can convert it into just about anything. It comes in different densities. It comes in different profiles, and we're using it in both block and brace. And obviously, you guys saw a lot of cold chain, but block and brace is a huge one. Think about how many times you guys open boxes and you have EPS particles everywhere. It's the most annoying thing. You have to vacuum it, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, we're converting it into all sorts of stuff. Coming soon.
Yeah.
Coming soon. The really cool thing about this stuff, though, that we discovered with, she mentioned Tempest. We have a customer that does home weather stations, and it's a very fragile, expensive item, and they wanted a block and brace solution, and they didn't want to use foam. Molded pulp wasn't working. They were actually having fractures in the plastic. So we cut it, and we discovered in the process that you don't need to laminate or glue these. It sticks together with water and steam. So not only do we discover, hey, we got this compostable item, but we don't need a glue that ruins the whole compostability. We can literally steam these puppies together. So it's pretty cool. Again, like why it's great to have good partners figuring that stuff out along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike, because I forgot this is being broadcasted live as we speak on CNN.
Now that I know that, maybe I'll sit back down. Okay, this doesn't involve my husband and, his making of tea. But so I retired, but I was in the medical device contractor business. So the MD&M show is in February. Are you guys going to be there in Anaheim?
I am now.
Okay, so it's the medical device and manufacturing. It's huge. And, there are packagers, there are device companies. Go and look and see what you have. But I'm sitting here thinking, you should talk to Lubrizol, because Lubrizol, who I used to work for, it's all about, they have all their sustainability. They make plastics, right? So if they want to do sustainability, they should look at things like this to at least package the product in. And they're connected to device companies all over the world, the Finnish device companies. So it's MD&M. And my friend Beranger from France will be there. I just found this out. So you should be there. So it's in February.
You had me at hello.
In Anaheim.
Okay, JJ's like, I'm there.
I'm in. Any other questions? We got a professional skier up here. We got movie makers.
I love that we're getting all techie and just getting right
This
into
is great.
making
I
this happen.
think I just made 3 new customers. I'm going to a trade show.
No, this is what it's all about. We got to get it out there.
Awesome. Wes, TJ, attack quick. Get them, guys.
I have more of a storytelling, creative question. I think we've seen a lot of films today, and I don't know if it was Jason who said this, but there's something so powerful about the visual and visual storytelling. And I know that a lot of documentary filmmaking companies have a big social media presence. Like, I'm in college, and unfortunately, social media, or maybe fortunately, is how like a lot of my generation and the generation younger than me, and even my parents' generation, gets a lot of their information. I know Cody has a big social media presence, but I'm wondering how, Ben, Gabby, you guys are using social media to kind of make your films into short form, or if that has impacted how you guys are creating and thinking about your final products.
Yeah, I can answer the first part of it a little bit. Yeah, it's tricky. I feel like as a documentary filmmaker, it's so hard to make a short documentary meaningful and powerful and poignant and have it breathe, I think is really important. There's a lot of pieces out there, it's just like rapid fire, like a lot of information, but in order to intake that information, you need to be able to visually, there's visuals, there's timing, there's sound design going on, so it has to have the time it needs. So there's 2 parts. I think one, when we were formulating how we're gonna market this, how we're gonna put it out there. It's like, let's make the longer piece. Like, let's just have it be as long as it needs to be to tell the story we want to tell. And then we're gonna make these cut downs, and that's for social, that's for Instagram, and those can be a little bit zippier. The intro is faster, it gets you hooked a little quicker. But I think now folks are just thinking about making not just one piece, but this sort of package campaign, to get stories out there.
Yeah, it's a big part of what we do at Imagine 5. That's our biggest audience is on socials. That's really like kind of our bread and butter is like 90-second videos. So we made 3 different cut downs from this, and they're not exactly this story. There's some bonus content. So go check out Imagine 5, follow us. You can see how we translated this film to socials in a vertical format, and it got seen by like almost 500,000 people, the few different cut downs. That's partly thanks to having Leonardo DiCaprio on speed dial, Amelia.
He said he's supposed to show up today, so keep your eyes open.
Darn.
That's, you should definitely stick around for the whole entire summit, because you never know when he's gonna come out.
So he's involved with Cruise Foam on the investment side, and got to share on his story, which really helped amplify that. So that's kind of how the social tipping points happens, right? Is when you get some big profile people that are willing to get behind this. Cody sharing his platform to get this story out there was huge. I think people really resonated with that.
Yeah, and to answer, I kind of actually am going a little bit different direction with social media these days. These are complex, nuanced topics, and I am finding social media is not a place for complex, nuanced topics. And when you try to boil down these things, they just become very polarized and push people into extreme corners, and social media profits off those extreme corners. So I'm actually been going the opposite way and really directing more traffic into long form media, and I utilize social media just to direct traffic to long form media, which like there's in my decks that I have to put out to sponsors, one of the stats I have is the average reel length on Instagram, the average view length is between 2 to 3 seconds. An average view length I get on my YouTube channel is 9.5 minutes. So in order to equate that, I have to produce 160 reels to get one YouTube view. And in that engagement that you can get, if you have one person that watches 9.5 minutes, you can actually have a conversation with people. You can actually get a message across. You can like connect with someone. So to me these days, like I personally would rather have a conversation with 1,000 people for 10 minutes than 1 million people that saw something for 2.5 seconds and almost get nothing out of it. And I personally am pulling back a lot on social media and just be like, hey, just go to my newsletter or go to my YouTube channel. That's kind of all I'm using it for these days.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed the panel. We hope you enjoyed the film. If you have any questions for anybody, we'll be around. But thank you guys for having us. Big round of applause for these 4 wonderful humans on stage.